What's going on? I am so happy to see you. I have been testing out this new screen behind me, so let me see if I can get it to work. Let's try it. Hey, it worked! Wait a second. There we go. That's the one I was looking for. Okay, today we are going to be talking about a Bible story. We have been learning a verse with Miss Laura, and she has done a great job of teaching it to you. And so I was trying to think back on the Bible stories that we have already read about. Hold on, let me think. Okay, the week one, I know our theme was... Yes, gracious. We said, what is God like? God is gracious. Because we learned Yahweh, Yahweh, compassionate and gracious God. That's right. Miss Jerry told us a story about Moses walking up and seeing a bush that was on fire. And then God spoke to Moses through the burning bush. Did you know that Yahweh is one of the names in the Bible for God? It's a Hebrew word, and it is the name that in that story, when Moses goes up to the burning bush, the bush says the name Yahweh. And then so for the rest of the Hebrew scriptures, a lot of times when we talk about God, we use the name Yahweh. So when we're learning our verse and we say, Yahweh, Yahweh, compassionate and gracious God, we're saying one of God's names. Isn't that cool? Okay, and then in week 2, our theme was patient. That's right, because Miss Doris told us a story about Jesus and Peter walking on the water and about how patient Jesus was with Peter and with all the disciples. And when we learned our verse, we said, Yahweh, Yahweh, compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger. And Miss Laura told us that saying that God is slow to anger is just another way of saying that God is patient, that it takes God a lot, that it takes a lot to get God upset. I just remembered something that I learned before. Have you ever heard the word idiom? An idiom is a phrase that uses words to say something, but it doesn't always mean exactly what it sounds like it's going to mean. So if I said, oh, it's raining cats and dogs out there, do I really mean that there are cats and dogs falling from the sky? No. When I say it's raining cats and dogs, what I mean is that it's raining really hard. So that is what we would call an idiom, because it's using colorful language to say something, right? Did you know that in Hebrew, the language that the book of Exodus was written in has idioms too? In Hebrew, they would say things like, it's raining cats and dogs, but they would say something else to mean something. So in our verse, when it says slow to anger, the actual words that it says, I bet you will never guess it. It says, God has a long nose. Isn't that funny? Because the Hebrew people used to say when somebody gets angry, the tip of their nose begins to turn red. And if somebody has a really long nose, like me, I have a long nose. If somebody has a really long nose, then it takes a long time for the tip of their nose to get red. So it takes a long time for them to get angry. So that people would say, oh, if somebody was really patient, they would say, oh, they have a really long nose, right? Or if somebody got angry really fast and really easily, they might say, oh, they have a short nose. Isn't that funny? So in our scripture, we say, Yahweh, Yahweh, compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, God has a long nose. God is patient with us. Okay, now week 3. Our theme is faithful. What is God like? God is faithful. And we have a story that also comes from the Old Testament, from the Hebrew Scriptures. And this story is about a man named Abraham. And it's about promises that God makes to Abraham. So Abraham used to live in this far-off country. And God came to Abraham and his wife, and he said, come to this new place. Come follow me to this new place. And so Abraham came. And there's these stories of Abraham traveling all the way to this new place that God was going to show him. And then God takes him up and shows him, kind of like this. He shows him this big area of land. And he says, Abraham, I have a couple things that I want to promise you. I am going to give you a new place to live. And I'm going to give you tons of descendants. And I am going to be your God, and you are going to be my people. Your children are going to be my people. And Abraham says, but I don't even have any children at all. How am I going to have descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky if I don't even have any children yet? And God says, just wait. And that's kind of what faithful means. If somebody is faithful, that means that you can trust them to keep their promises. That means if they say something, that they're going to do something, even if it takes them a long time, or even if it costs them a lot, they are going to do it because they are a faithful person. So when we say our God is faithful, what we mean is that we can count on God to do what God says God will do. And you know what? If you read forward in the story, you find that eventually Abraham and his wife, they do have a son, and his name is Isaac. And then if you read further in the story, you read that Isaac's children and Isaac's children's children move into this new land. And pretty soon, there is descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and they live in this brand new place that God had provided for them. I think it's a wonderful thing that we serve a God who can keep promises, that we serve a God who is faithful. All right, thanks for joining me in the story this week. Make sure and come back next week. We have another good one for you. Bye.